What we have here is the video accompaniment to the plaiting a plexus instructions that are elsewhere on the website. Just thought a video might make it easier for you to understand, but people have done it from the instructions, so they're fine. So what we have here is the template. You can see it has 5 grooves at the top labelled C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1, and then it has lines down the cardboard: roots, trunks, divisions, chords and branches. When we did it at the AAA conference, we had laser template cards, but clearly there's no reason why it needs to be, and this is just done on the back of a cereal packet, so anything that you have to hand. For each nerve we have a number of strands. So for the C5 nerve you need 4 strands, and I have chosen green. It's handy to have lighter and darker shades of the same colour, I think. These strands are about the length of my arm to my chin, and to start with we just put an overhand knot into the top of the strand and they slot into the C5 slot. So we have the 4 green strands, 2 light and 2 dark for C5. For C6 we have 4 strands, 2 pink and 2 red. Obviously you can pick any colours you want. For the C7 strand it is just 3 strands, 1 light and 2 dark. For the C8 strand, again it's just the 3, 2 dark and 1 light, in this case orange and yellow. And for the C8 strand, again it's 2 dark and 1 light, and in this case we have gone with purple and white. The first activity is to plait these until we get down from the line between roots and trunks. The instructions for how to plait multiple strands are on the back of the instructions, but I'll just show you a little trick that I learnt which works for any number of strands. So you just split them unevenly, so in this case we have 1 on this side and 3 on the other side, and you take the outside strand from the larger group and it goes across onto the inside of the other group, and then the outside strand goes across onto the inside, and you just continue like this, outside to inside. And we're going to do this until we get down to the line between roots and trunks. And you'll see that the pattern that you get here depends on the order that your strands were in when you started. So if you want a particular pattern, you'll need to practice to make sure you get that pattern. And when you get down to that line, you can just leave it. There's no need to sellotape it or clip it or anything. It will stay as it is. So again, for C6 we have the 4 strands, 2 light and 2 dark. You're going to split them, 3 on one side, 1 on the other, and then we take the outside strand and it goes to the inside of the other group. Outside to inside, outside to inside. And the order that you have these strands in when you start plaiting will dictate the pattern that you get. It's quite an interesting opening for a conversation about anatomical variation, because everybody will start with the 4 strands, but their plaiting will look differently depending on what order they have done that in. So that's quite a good conversation starter. We do that till we get down to the roots and trunks line and then leave it there. The next 3 nerves, I've just got the 3 strands, and you might find that people are a lot quicker. This is the general sort of plait that everybody knows, and so these can be plaited quicker. C7, we can actually continue this 3-strand plait all the way down to where the line comes between trunks and divisions, because as we know, nothing joins that nerve when it makes a trunk. C8 and T1, again it's a 3-strand plait, but this time we need to stop at the roots and trunks. So now to join these together, C5 and C6 join together to give us a trunk, and I like to pair them up so that red goes with dark green and the pink goes with the light green. It's purely personal taste here as to how you pair them up. But now we're going to plait them as if it's 4 strands, but we're using pairs of strands. So you just need to remember, same thing as before, uneven split, and you just need to remember when you take the outside strand across to the inside of the others that you're moving pairs of strands rather than individuals. So as long as you remember what your pairs were, this shouldn't be a problem. So here we're joining the 8 strands together to give us our trunk. Remember to move the right strands across. And you continue that down until you get down to the divisions. Now at this point we're going to continue on with this nerve. All the light coloured strands are going to move to the back so that it will become our posterior cord. The lighter strands make the posterior cord. And we're going to bring C7 across and take the 2 darker strands across so that we're making our lateral cord. Now when I plait these together purely for aesthetics, I pair up the red, the blue and the green. And again, these are plaited as 3 strands and we're using pairs. So the greens move with the green, the red with the red, the blue with the blue. And we take this down to the line between cords and branches. When we get to branches, we're now making our first nerve. So that is our musculocutaneous nerve. It is made up of a blue, a green and a red. So we just take these 3 strands and we now plait these to give our first terminal nerve. So you can continue this for as long as you want. And now you do knot it off. Again, it's just the double overhand knot that we used before. And you knot that off, that's your first nerve, musculocutaneous, and you can label that on your card if you want. Okay, if we move back up to the C5 and the T1, same thing here, we're going to C8 and T1, same thing here, we're going to join these together to make a trunk. We're going to pair them up, purple with orange, yellow with white, and again this is just plaited 3 strands, working them together as pairs. And you continue that down until you get to the divisions. So once we're at the divisions, we take out the lighter coloured strands. They're going to go for our posterior cord. And we continue with these 4 strands, 2 orange and 2 purple. We split them unevenly and we go back to taking the outside across to the inside of this group, and then the inside goes across to the other. And we continue this down to give us our cord. So once we get down to the line between cord and branch, we'll make our second terminal nerve. This is going to be our ulnar nerve, and this is just made with a purple and an orange. And when we get to this point, we're knotting rather than plaiting. We'll take the orange and lay it across the purple, bring it up through that hole and pull it tight. And then we take the purple across the orange, up through the hole and pull it tight. And we're just going to continue this for as long as you want to. The reason that we're swapping between purple and orange is to use up the same amount of string from each side. And also, if you just do it one way, so if you constantly knot the orange over the purple or vice versa, then you end up with a string that twists around on itself, which looks quite nice. You might want to do that. It's entirely up to you. And when you get as far as you want to with this nerve, there's no need to knot it off like we did with the other one, because this obviously is already knotted. And that makes our ulnar nerve. Now we'll leave the dark coloured strands and we'll go back to these lighter coloured strands here, and we're going to make the posterior cord. So I like to take the white and the yellow across the back, just it makes it tighter for knotting them together. And we're going to knot these together as a 4-strand, but it's going to be 3 sets of pairs on 1 string on its own. Okay, so at this point we take that lone string, it's the outside cord, we take it across and put it beside the other ones, and then outside to inside. And we keep this going all the way down the cords until we get to that line that separates this from the cords from the branches. Try and remember which was your lone string so that you don't move it across as a pair and change your pairings halfway down. And you might end up with this at some point where you have 1 string on one side and all 6 strings are on the other. It doesn't matter. And then when we get down towards that line, we'll split this into the branches. So we end up, conveniently here, a pink and a yellow. These are going to form our, not pink and yellow, pink and green. And this is going to form our axillary nerve. Again, this is just 2 strands. So we just knot it as we did before. So green over pink. And then pink over green. And we just alternate this as we work our way down. To give us our auxiliary nerve. And again, no need to knot this off when you get to the end of it, because it's already knotted. I'll just do a few more. Okay, so the other strands, just move this under here. These are going to make up our radial nerve, 5 strands. So again, we're going to split them unevenly, 3 on one side, 2 on the other. And we just take the outside of the larger group across to the inside. And then outside to inside, outside to inside. And we just keep that going. So we end up with these 5 strands braided together to give us our radial nerve. So this one we do have to knot off when we get to the end. So again, overhand knot, and you can trim the ends. And then if we go back up to the strands that we have left, they're the darker strands, and they are going to make our median nerve. Again, I like to take the purple and orange to the other side just to make it tighter. We have our 5 strands, and you're just going to take the outside of one group to the inside of the other. You can make this as big or as large as you like. When I first did this, it actually is a plant holder. It has plant pots that are hung between the strands. They have to be inserted as you're doing the knotting, but the whole thing is about 4.5 to 5 foot long. So you can make it as big or as small as you want. It's handy just to do it this size for in a class. It's quite a quick activity, and obviously the bigger it is, the more string you're going to need. So that's the final knot. So there we have our brachial plexus. It shows our roots, our trunks, divisions, cords, and here are our 5 terminal branches. We have the anterior and posterior cords, posterior being lighter. If you want, then you can knot these bits where they go across, or you can just leave them as strings. We've got the conversations about anatomical variation with the different colours. If people are doing this, they will have different patterns in their plaiting. And you can also have conversations about what would happen if one of these spinal nerves was injured, because you can see that, say, this nerve was injured, there is no one nerve at the end that relies on purple and white, so you wouldn't have a complete loss of function. So you can bring in those conversations as well. So I hope you enjoy this activity. As I say, the full instructions are on the website. The video is available. Please, if you have any problems, get in touch and let me know.